Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So on Wisconsin, support the Wisconsin movement, the new Wisconsin idea. This is the real voice of the American people. This is not the AstroTurf Tea Party supported by the Koch brothers. This is something real. This is the mass strike. What it needs, though, is a program and a strategy. We have both here. The program and the strategy are really two sides of the same coin because they mesh. The first point, trade union rights for everybody. That means everybody. Number two, no cutting, no gutting, no austerity. It doesn't work. Maintain the social safety net. Third, jobs. We need 30 million new jobs in this country to reach full employment. We've got to get back to a high-wage economy. Full employment, the labor market is the key to that. We need a Works Progress Administration and a Public Works Administration, and we need it fast. We should be able to create 5 to 10 million jobs within just a couple of months. We may have to dump Obama in the process because he's not going to be for this, but there it is. It's anti-Republican, anti-Democrat, anti-ruling class, anti-Wall Street, anti-Federal Reserve, because Bernanke will be against it too. Bernanke loves the strike breakers. Bernanke loves the austerity demands. And fourth point, pay for all this with a Wall Street sales tax on turnover, on those huge sums, right? Those huge turnover, $1 quadrillion a year in derivatives alone, plus everything else that goes through the foreign exchange is about $4 trillion worldwide per day. U.S. is certainly a third or a fourth or a half of that, depending on the day. Therefore, we've got a 4-point program. And this gives you the ability to address the groups you've got to address. You've got to address public sector workers, unionized and not unionized. You've got to address private sector workers, most of them not unionized. They've got to be organized. You've got to address the unemployed. And within the unemployed and within these other groups, the foreign workers, the undocumented aliens, so-called, are either going to be your allies or they're going to be strike breakers against you. So choose. You can either alienate them with racism and xenophobia, or you can make them into allies and fight against Wall Street, your true enemy. You got to think about students. You got to think about retired people, now more numerous than they were before. Significant numbers of military people and other federal government workers have got to be included. You have got to have a national program that expresses the legitimate interest of these groups for a higher standard of living and economic recovery and full employment, and it's got to be based on production, not distribution demands primarily, but production demands. So it starts with an infrastructure program to create an economic recovery, because the simple economic fact is the austerity plans of Walker lead to deeper depression. All of these Republican reactionary governments, Christie in New Jersey, Walker in Wisconsin, Scott in Florida, Kasich in Ohio, Pawlenty in Minnesota, now outgoing, Perry in Texas, Mitch Daniels, now the darling of the Beltway elite here after his recent speech. Their programs lead you directly into the depression at a very, very fast rate. Jerry Brown and Cuomo, like Obama, lead you into the depression at a somewhat slower rate, but they also will lead you there in the end. And the problem with them is, of course, that they work with deceit. So there's a certain benefit in having Walker come out and say, I'm an honest strikebreaker. I am an open scab. I'm a union buster. What are you going to do about it? Well, put up or shut up, unions. The answer, a general strike, but based on the demands that I've just gone through. Trade union rights for everybody. Number one, no cutting, no gutting. Maintain the social safety net, 30 million new jobs, productive jobs, and pay for it all with the Wall Street sales tax. Make Wall Street pay for the depression. Just a couple of words about these governors. This Christie is now getting a lot of attention. Remember, we've discussed cultural populism, right? Scott Brown had a truck. What's his name there? Fred Thompson started with the truck. Lamar Alexander had a plaid shirt. Bush the elder had horseshoes. Bush the younger had pork rinds. You can field dress a moose with Palin, guns, of course, jelly beans. All of these cultural populist props that are used to dupe people. With Christie, he says the new populist is fat, to be fatso. The fatter you are, the more obese you are, the more you are sort of in the Walmart obesity set, the more cultural populist you are. Every man is now obese, says Christie, and vote for me, I'm every man. So he'll bust the unions with that. Now, the interesting thing now is the convergence between Christie in New Jersey and Scott in Florida. The Republicans, from Limbaugh on down, hate fast rail. They hate the most important infrastructural improvement that's going on in the world, or one of them, right now. And they say, oh, Obama's based on windmills and trains. Yeah, well, forget the windmills. That part I agree with. No green jobs. We don't want any green jobs. The more green jobs you have, the poorer you are. We don't need solar cells. We don't need windmills, except for very, very limited specialty applications. Your base load has got to be the 100 nuclear reactors that you can start building with a PWA, Public Works Administration. If the private sector won't build them, then the Public Works Administration can go ahead and build them. What are you waiting for? Ironically, what the ruling elite has done in Egypt, right? They show that you can get 10 or 15,000 people into a square, keep them there for 2 weeks. You can overthrow a government. Hey, how about that? Why didn't we think of that? Now, obviously, the CIA's doctrine of mob rule, they say applies in Cairo and elsewhere in the Middle East, but of course it doesn't apply here. You can see these television commentators shifting gears when they go from Egypt, where they're in favor of the demonstrators, to the United States, where they're, of course, opposed to them and want to red bait them and otherwise denigrate them. But the Chinese are laughing. The Chinese are laughing at Scott. They're laughing at Christie. The Chinese will have 35,000 miles of fast rail within about 15 years, and the U.S. will have almost none. And with Christie, well, it's just impossible. So these are your Republican governors, and the more they run this open, naked class attack, the more they force these discredited union bureaucrats to do something about it. Now, let's just look at the situation here in Washington, because here we have the reactionary Republicans, too. Boehner, the Speaker of the House, says if more and more public sector federal workers are going to be thrown out of work, so be it. Hey, the job-killing Republican Party, where are the jobs, Boehner? So be it, he says, if they're lost. It's clear these people, and the governors too, they see the Depression as an opportunity. Some of them pretty much say it. They have their own doctrine of that crisis is too good to waste. They want to use it to destroy trade unions. They want to bust the union movement and roll back history to essentially the beginning of the 19th century, or maybe the late 18th century. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.